Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 7th, 2024 meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. I am Joe Barnes, co-chair. First thing we do at each meeting is take a roll of members who are present. When I call your name, please indicate by saying aye. Maureen Callahan.
Aye.
Laura Dorfman.
Aye.
Reg Foster.
Aye.
Jim Rosenbaum.
Aye.
Dave Hera.
Aye.
Gene McKnight.
Here.
I welcome our two newest members, Paul Dawson
Hello, everybody.
and Keith LaFace.
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. We have our administrative assistant, Lauren Spinney, ably assisting us, all things
considered.
All things. This meeting is being conveniently recorded, both live here and at Zoom. It's posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conferencing. Tonight, I will introduce any speaker on the agenda. After they have concluded their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. For committee members, please use your hand to raise function on your Zoom, or raise your hand here if you're present at the meeting. A reminder to the listening public, this is a public meeting, not a public hearing. Although you may want to make a statement or a question, the time for doing so is at the public hearing, and we'll talk about that quite soon. If you do have a question or comment, you can email it to our staff, Lauren Spinney, and she will respond in due course. So for any other comments or questions, if not, we will move on to the agenda for tonight. First item on the agenda is committee chair introduction and updates. Well, we've welcomed our two new members and thank you for filling those slots. We've been looking for you for some time. I'm glad you showed up. We have the finance committee consultation coming up. Actually, tonight we met with the finance committee just to get approval of our FY25 operating budget. And we didn't have to do much, did we, Lauren? Because the finance committee chairperson pretty much went over all of the items in our budget, and they were thumbs up, and we left, and here we are. So we're set to go with monies designated for our consultants, Emily, Lauren, who gets support from that budget as well, and a few other items that have been identified in past years as well. Next item is a public hearing. We're scheduled for the March 13th. Good if everyone can attend. I would recommend that liaisons contact their presenters, be sure that they're there. You may want to review what they have to say, just be sure that you're on the same page with them.
I have confirmed with each of the applicants that they are available to attend.
Good,
So,
great. So that's the 13th of March.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
may I
Rich?
mention the suggestion that I mentioned about sending out a postcard about the public hearing? Is this an appropriate time, or we actually?
It's appropriate time, sure.
So,
Okay, why don't you review so those who are new can.
yes,
Here.
so the sort of community outreach package that we hired to create a website that, the planning board used for the project. It also comes with the ability to generate several hundred postcards and mail them out to people. And one of the things the planning board requested that we do is to develop a list of neighbors that live with not the sort of statutory neighbors, but a broad sort of circle that was sort of worked out by the planning board chair and V. Newman, of everybody who might be interested in Linden Chambers project. And so when we did the December 6th meeting, we had sent notices out for that. And we don't have to spend any more money to do this as part of the package that we bought. And so I suggested to the chairs here and also the planning board chair that we'd send out a joint postcard noticing the two public hearings that are coming up. That's one of them is ours. We just talked about, but on the 27th, the planning board is already scheduled and posted a public hearing on the zoning article changes, which is the normal process that you have to go through before you can put a zoning article change on the town meeting warrant. There's a, draft that's been circulated and everybody thinks that's a pretty good idea to do. So it'll be going out next week, like on Monday. So that would be the 12th, the week of the 12th. That's a little bit early for us, but for the planning board, because we have the school vacation week coming up, the following, President's Day week there, the thought is that it should be in everybody's mailboxes by the end of the week. We'll also be, we've also been suggested and been requested that we use the town clerk's email blast mechanism to notice all 360 town meeting members as well. So maybe we'll get some turnout at our public hearing.
And the postcard simply is an announcement of the two public hearings.
Exactly. So on one page side, it's very simple. It's only like a 3x5 or a 5x7. And it basically has the date and time. It has the link to the town calendar website. So if there's a change in schedule or something, that people can find it there. And just one of the pictures of the aerial picture looking down over IROC School. I can send the final draft to Lauren and she can circulate it to everybody.
Anyone else comment?
Can I pause this for just a moment, because I'm afraid that. Oh,
Frozen.
that we might be frozen. I'm gonna stop screen sharing, to see if the owl is working or not. We might need to do a little troubleshooting.
So we're seeing, attendees there.
I'm seeing attendees.
Yeah, so we're not,
We're recording, we just can't see us. It looks. We should try disconnecting it,
Yeah,
and putting
doing
it
it.
back on.
I'm happy to. You can take the power right here, Julie.
well, we know the path. Looking at us here.
I'm just hoping maybe for a reset by doing that.
Flashing, so.
Yes.
Yeah, it must be.
Yep, so maybe.
As long as it's at least getting the audio.
No, he's playing through your computer. Right
I think
now.
we have to wait for this to
Yeah.
power back on too.
That's the sound it makes when it booted up.
Is that one of the members here?
It's one of the new ones.
Yeah, exactly.
We're so advanced technologically,
That's
but you fix most things by unplugging them.
that's right,
That's
yes,
usually my
exactly.
default.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. Thank you
Alright.
for your
Okay.
indulging me.
Any other comments about public hearing? Thank you, Reg, for that update.
I have a comment or question. I know the planning board was saying last night about this public hearing that it would be in the Charles room at the PSAP building. And we started looking around saying, will this be enough room for people?
Apparently they looked into that and there isn't another place to do it, so that's been reviewed and normally, certainly CPC public hearings don't attract a very big crowd. You've been on it for several years, as you know. Planning board could be quite different depending on the nature of the public hearing. It can be quite.
And there's
a
a
crowd.
Zoom option too.
But
Yes.
This isn't a joint hearing, though. right?
no, it's not joint. No.
Yeah,
There's
we
one
had
on the
like 2 people last
27th
year.
and one again on the 13th of March.
He's putting that saying that both of the hearings in a single postcard.
But there's different, I think it's gonna be okay.
They're different
We don't get
purposes.
a lot of interest. We haven't, maybe we.
Well,
that
we
would
had,
change.
last year we had two people.
Right.
Maybe we'll get 3 or 4 this year. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Anything else, anyone from the public hearing? All right, as an update also, we have the town moderator's appointment and we welcome Paul and Keith once again. Moving to the applications for this year, status updates and discussion. This will be our final meeting before the 21st, when we will in fact sit down and take a formal vote. So we have time tonight to take a look at each one of these. Any additional comments that have not been made in the past, we make them now. Let's start off with the FY 2025-01, the Housing Authority, Linden Chambers redevelopment. I think before we have anybody weigh in, we could refer to the fact that we did get a response from the town council.
We did, I can pull that up.
Okay.
But it is the same response that we discussed in the
Correct.
previous meeting.
And he does agree that it's an eligible project. It's not a rehab. It's more of a creating a new project, which still makes it eligible under the guidelines, but he did give some time to read it and supported our efforts. So anyone else want to make any comment about Linden Chambers? Any questions? Jean?
I certainly think the opinion is correct about the eligibility, but are the facts on the number of units correct? It didn't seem right to
So,
me,
The,
just knowing that they're gonna end up being.
so
many more
I
units.
sent an email to, into Lauren, that was passed on to him, and he is persisted in looking at it this way for reasons I don't understand here.
Your rebuttal is included in the meeting packet. It's the next email in the packet.
So, and Jean, of course, knows a huge amount about the project, because we've had 6 meetings with the planning board here, but he, there's a legal nuance here that I don't think I fully understand that he perceives. And, at the end of the day, it's still, eligible, but and from my perspective in that email, which I sent out the other, a couple, 3 months ago when we got our first response, and just, in plain, he's nuances of languages, we're preserving the 72 units that are already there and building, 136 new units, 72 which is preserving the existing units, and the other 64 are new units. So everybody agrees building new units with CPA funds is great, no problem. And then something is kind of, I don't know exactly what it is. We didn't have a chance. I haven't had a chance to have anybody look at this, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I don't know if it's worth trying to follow up any further. I'm gonna send this on to, our own consultants here. But as Jean was noting, and that's just the phase 1A and 1B, and then down the road, the plan is to also tear down the 80 units of chambers and replace those with 109 units in a separate future phase here.
Yeah.
They'll all be affordable. They'll all be for elderly or disabled housing for the foreseeable future. There was I'm sort of getting more into the update. So Joe, maybe I'll just pause there, but there are 3 things when we get to that part of the agenda that, I can continue if you want me to.
At what point in the agenda would you jump back in?
Oh, well, you got project updates, right? Or I can just continue now here.
Why don't you? That's where we are right
Yeah,
now.
all right, so another thing that's happened is there was a fair amount of really deep thought, and I'm gonna rely on Jean to help me get this right here too, but on, of course, the land is going to be restricted. The zoning will restrict it to affordable housing as the town defines it, and which is already well defined in the zoning bylaw. And that will, when you change the zoning to allow for more density and so forth, the only thing you still can use the land for is for that. The planning board and the select board have both signed off on the zoning warrant article language and the non-zoning warrant article language, although there's some additional staff work being done that no conclusion's been reached, that maybe there should be things should be done via an overlay district that overlays on top of the in the two existing districts where we split half in general residence and half in SR1. So, you can overlay a district, or you can just change it to a new affordable housing district. That's the way things are now. But there's some further discussion, and it has some interplay with what's going on with the MBTA Communities Act. That, again, there's a lot of moving parts on that, but all the home people and the planning department people and the planning board people and us people are all sort of kind of working together for whatever is the optimal answer for the town. But it doesn't affect the project, eligibility. And then the other thing that was part of the discussion, and there was a lot of talk back and forth, is the original grants to the town of land to the town to the housing authority in the 50s and 60s specifically restricted the grant for use for elderly housing with no mention of disabled, because that was a change in the law that was done a few years later. It's been used for both ever since. Then the question is, do you continue that restriction to elderly and disabled in the zoning article, or do you remove it and just have an affordable housing restriction, which provides certain avenues of future flexibility, number one, that are not anywhere in the horizon for the Needham Housing Authority, but could change, but not at least for the next 15 plus years. And then the other thing is, if you remove the elderly and disabled restriction, then our 11 acres are adjacent to the 50 plus acres that you have to have for the MBTA Communities Act. And that might provide certain flexibility, and I'm not closely, in following this myself, but it might provide certain flexibilities to solve certain kind of problems that, would make the whole MBTA community set of proposals that will be coming for fall town meeting more palatable to certain groups or certain neighborhoods or certain streets, because you have more flexibility to basically tailor restrictions, because some suburbs, not us, but some suburbs have been using that as an excuse not to build family housing, which is inherently more burdensome on community resources with the school system and so forth.
So Emily recommends, she has some recommendations for some of this, and she recommends the deed restrictions read, which means that into perpetuity, that's the only use of the property. It also limits to some degree value.
So there's a convergence that's happening, and all the different committees that are involved, and the town staff and the town council has been also deeply involved in this as well. are sort of converging on a common
So
understanding.
ultimately, whose decision is it?
Town meeting.
Someone has to make a recommendation, is that us or is that
Oh,
the
on the
planning
funding,
board?
on the funding for the CPA?
No,
Whether to
The-
lift the restrictions.
the restrictions of,
Oh, on the restriction, on
Yeah.
the restrictions that exist as instruments recorded in the registry of
Mhm.
deeds. It's the select board,
select board, okay.
but they need approval from town meeting to release these restrictions. And so that is being sought in a separate article. Yeah, and then as far as the zoning goes, as Rich mentioned, it's already in process. The planning board has already sent it to the select board. And perhaps it's already been sent back for a public hearing and the date been set. I'm just not sure about that. Well, that's what we were talking about, the
Mhm.
public hearing. Yeah, and the date has been set.
So it has been said, it's actually posted now.
Right,
And
right.
notice it goes, you have to, several weeks in advance, you have to actually put a physical advertisement in the hometown
Right.
weekly, yeah.
And then the role of the planning board is to conduct the public hearing. And the planning board is also the sponsor of the article. Under state zoning act, there are certain select boards and planning boards can be sponsors. Otherwise, you need a petition signed by voters and so forth. So of course, in this case, the planning board is sponsoring it. And then after the hearing, the planning board will decide on its recommendation. You know, the planning board stands up and says at town meeting that the planning board recommends adoption of this article. It's the
So
idea. So
How
that's
does
the
this
role.
dovetail with what we're gonna try to do? So we have our application, we have all of that, and we have recommendations. And some of them include some language about deed restrictions and, they may include, loan repayment terms, and there's gonna be some language. So are we, I just wanna make sure, like, it sounds like the deed restriction thing is sort of a separate thing on the side. Do we leave that to the planning board and to the,
I think there are two restrictions that you might be thinking of. One are the restrictions that were recorded decades ago. That are going.
Potentially change.
Is either, that they're going to be changed or simply released.
Yeah,
They no longer
okay.
exist.
yeah,
And then the other is when the Community Preservation Act is granting funds
right,
for affordable housing. I
Right.
suppose you typically want to see a restriction of some kind.
well, that's what
Well,
that's
yeah,
gonna be part of
yes.
like the documentation.
Yeah.
So, as I
So I just
understand
wanna
it,
make sure we're not,
yeah. I mean, we're gonna have to rely on staff to
Okay.
work this behind the scenes for all three committee or four committees who count the Needham Housing Authority.
Okay.
But as I understand it, the sort of consensus, and is that when it comes to restricting the zoning, that's kind of belongs to the planning board, of course, and that zoning will say you can only do affordable housing as already defined in the Needham zoning bylaws, and that we considered several other methods. We have very competent counsel on all sides helping us with this. Robert Smart if anybody knows Bob Smart is our zoning counsel here. So he does this all day for 40 years with Chris Heap. And they've kind of came to the conclusion that the best approach is to use the already existing town definition of affordable, not introduce it. We considered some other definitions, kind of like what was in this, but that's the best approach for the town, because it's got to work and consistent with
Yeah,
all the other.
no, I understand that. I wanna make sure that we're dovetailing and that we're not, working in our own
Right.
silo with what we're asking for in our presentation. And then there's all this planning board and town
Yeah.
meeting work going on separately with this deed restriction issue. So
Yeah,
that's all and maybe that's a staff thing to
well,
sort of
it's
coordinate. I
that, but
don't know.
then ultimately what goes on the town meeting warrant belongs to the select board. They're the final arbitrator. So that's where it
Okay.
all comes together.
So maybe we just
So we
say
can
subject
rely-
to select board.
And Katie King is sort of our deputy, or town manager, is kind of bird dogging this across all the different committees here.
Okay,
And so we just make, whatever we vote on has to be consistent with what the
Right,
zoning article and the non-zoning warrant article says.
okay,
The zoning warrant article just says, here's all the deeds that we know about and that are recorded.
yeah, no, we
Yeah.
don't have to get that deep, I just wanna make sure we are, we're clear in what we're presenting, and we're not duplicating or overstepping something that the select board or the planning board is also
Right.
presenting in a warrant, that's all I just,
Another way to do it is to say, the biggest decision this committee has, and it has actually the sole power over this, is how much money to approve for the grant.
right, okay.
I know in the town council's memo, that he says, finally, with regard to this project, the town should require as a condition of any grant award that it hold an affordable housing restriction on the new units.
Right.
And that's what you're speaking of, everything. And that's just separate, that's separate. There's not really a restriction in the zoning. The zoning is just saying, this is what you can do with this land.
Right,
You know, a year from now, town meeting could amend the zoning and do something else, but it's not any permanent thing.
right,
Of course, practically speaking, it will be.
yeah,
permanent.
no one's gonna change it,
Um,
right,
But so the affordable housing restriction that the town council speaks of is a document that will be executed by the owner to the town to comply with the condition of this
Okay.
grant. Yeah, that should be,
that sounds separate,
that shouldn't create any problem with it, with what else is
Okay.
going on.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Joe,
All right.
anybody have any questions?
I have a couple other updates here, maybe more quick. We had a meeting with the T-Chalk on Monday. That should be available by now, I would guess, on video if anybody wants to watch it. The agenda for that meeting, was just, all about, here's the money that's come from the town across four CPA articles up to date, not counting the one we're, considering, what deliverables have come in, major deliverables have come in to date. Almost like a show and tell at fifth grade. So we have a pile of thick reports and stuff, and, plans and so forth. And then, how many invoices have come in that's done that work? Have we gotten value for our money? So forth, and how, where do we stand today?
Did they approve everything?
And they approved everything that was before them, yes, and then, there's still a few more catch up to be done, but it was all broken out by funding source.
Okay,
And I, sent a copy of the presentation to Laura, and Joe and Lauren, and so, they were, I think, I heard, right after me that they felt like, now we get it, and
Good.
we're happy, and they got a few more disbursement requests to approve. And that are coming in this week, but we'll be all caught up to 2023, and part of what's made it so complex is we're like 8 different funding sources that we're using for
Right.
this.
right,
And it's very tricky. It's very easy to make a mistake, let me just put it that way, and
Mhm.
there have been some mistakes made, but I think we've got it all sorted.
Great,
But you said you sent that presentation.
I thought it, yeah, I did.
to me? Okay, I'll double check.
I thought, well, maybe I didn't, I could have imagined it.
Check, because I don't think I received it either.
Okay,
that's
I
okay.
can send you an email,
Yeah,
just as a
yeah.
reminder.
yeah.
Okay,
It's
Okay.
very, I think you might find it very informative. It's not copies of all the invoices. The T-Chalk actually got copies
I
of
have those.
all
too.
those, but this is like a summary presentation, kind of saying where things are. So there's that. And then we also received a key milestone over the weekend, Monday, and which I reported to the T-Chalk first, because it happened to be first. But there's a legal technical maneuver that needs to be done to transfer 100% ownership of the Linden Street property, so it's the half of it, the 4 acres there, to a private LLC that's 100% owned by Needham Housing Authority, which then liberates a exception in the procurement laws that reduces the cost of the project by about 30%. And you know, we got approval from EOHLC about that, you know, in writing on Monday when I got into the email. So and it's also important just because it's a, you know, visible sign that we're on their radar screen and that they're wanting this to happen. In fact, the very last sentence of this approval said, we're really looking forward to seeing your applications next fall and, you know, keep on
Good.
trucking. So not exactly those words, but, you know,
Well, that's good.
but it was, you know,
Okay.
That's good.
that's it.
As we go through these three proposals. tonight-
Oh, so there was one more question received too. Did you cover that with anybody here tonight before now? There,
No, I
we-
wasn't sure if you'd be addressing it tonight or not.
I could, but you know, if you haven't even circulated the question to everybody, then maybe it's premature.
Well, we could just let everyone know what it was. It was a question from Emily Achtenberg, who was looking for the basis for the NHA's belief that there could do a $6.8 million equity takeout from the Seabeds Cook repositioning. And she was kind of just looking for the calculations from how you
Yeah.
came up with that number.
Right.
Right.
So there's an answer to that. But the high level, there's a detailed Emily answer to the question, but the high level answers, we've spoken to this before, by doing the federal repositioning of Seabeds and Cook first, we open up a new cash flow. And when I say first, the financial closing has to go first before Linden Chambers. It opens up two sources of money, subsidy that can be cross-subsidized over to Linden Chambers and make the numbers work.
Mhm.
And one is what we refer to as the Fair Cloth Authority. It's the 60 units of subsidy that are no longer needed in Seabeds and Cook and can go over to Linden Chambers and continue to make it possible for us to have this deeply affordable housing.
Right.
And then the second part is that it liberates about $1 million additional cash flow, like real green stuff per year on top of what we already get. We need to use some of that for financing the modernization, the renovations, the preservation that we need to do at Seabeds and Cook. But there's, you know, projected to be enough left over so that we can use that in essence to loan $6.8 million to this, you know, the Seabeds to the Linden Chambers project and be financed $6.8 million worth of construction funding.
Can you get the more detailed explanation of
Yep.
Emily's to her?
And so what I'm gonna
We
do
can do
is,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
we're just reviewing the actual wording draft of it. And then I'll send it on to Lauren and you can provide it to Emily
Okay.
and the rest of the committee here.
For Paul and Keith's purposes, Emily is our financial consultant on housing. And she zooms in from time to time. She'll be here on the 21st, at least online.
And with a
Great
report
resource.
too, right?
Yep.
Presenting an analysis and a report.
All right, just before we leave this, any other comments about Linden Chambers right now? Getting a sense from the committee, do we feel as though we'll be able to approve this application? Irregardless of the amount of money we fund, let's say whatever it's gonna be, but we feel as though this is a worthwhile project we'll be able to stand behind. We're gonna be asked by FinCom either directly or indirectly as to whether we're gonna be
Definitely.
behind it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
Do we feel that way?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. The Needham High School tennis courts. We got it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm
Laura.
so sorry. I just wanted to make sure we point out that we do have with us tonight both Stacy Longroy and Jonathan Charwick. With respect to the tennis court application, if there are any additional questions.
thank you for the printout, the financial statements made on how this money's gonna be spent. People had a chance to take a look at the information forwarded to you. Um, You know, it appears as though, just on the surface, that the installation cost of the asphalt is far less expensive than, I say far less, $1 million plus, than the post-tension concrete. Yet as you move along, it appears as though, you know, you'd be, in some way, be penny wise and pound foolish to not go with the post-tension, given the lifespan and the yearly maintenance. Now, that's just my quick observation. Anyone else? Comments on the tennis court? Dave?
Yeah, I have a couple comments. First, I just have a question. My understanding is that the request now is $1.4 million, not the 2.6.
Because the town is picking up 1.2.
Right. And I didn't see that, you know, codified anywhere. And I asked you and you said it was, but I never saw it.
It
so-
was in the town's capital plan,
Yeah, but I'm talking about before.
and
this
at the
coming-
last meeting, we talked about it with Cecilia.
Yeah,
May I,
but I haven't seen
I-
it in writing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought it came out of the blue. When Cecilia told us that the obligation,
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
yeah,
So, okay, so that's, that could be remedied. The other question is to the commission or the committee is, you know, are we supposed to, or are we being asked to decide whether, you know, we support the concrete or the asphalt? Or is that something we leave to the department? Just a question. Oh,
maybe we would,
well, you know, we could,
did we get a formal request for one versus the other?
no,
We just got a dollar
Yeah.
amount request.
so, you know, we have the capital costs and we have like the ongoing operating costs. I see, the costs over time was done correctly. It should have been like a net present value kind of a calculation. What's been presented is a mishmash. Some of the money is current value, some of the money is future value, and that's really not how you compare it. I took the information that was presented and I put it in, like a net present value model. And I got a difference of $100,000 roughly. The concrete option was $100,000 within the asphalt option. So essentially, they're the same costs on a net present value basis. So I think what's important is the maintenance, you know, and if you look at the tennis courts now, I think they all have maintenance problems. They all have cracks, asphalt cracks. So, I mean, I would.
And the town's not very good at maintaining stuff.
Well, you know, you didn't hear that from me, but I think that, you know, just given that, the ease of maintenance of the concrete, given that they're,
The post-tension.
Yeah.
Yeah,
given that the net present value of these two options is about the same, that if we were gonna, you know, put some input into that decision, I would say the concrete is the way to go, you know. Not so much because it's gonna save a lot of money, but because it's going to be a lot easier to maintain.
So our charge though is to determine the eligibility of the request for the funds, right? Whose decision is it to decide which material?
I can tell you that the commission has voted unanimously to support the post-tension concrete.
okay,
Mr. Chair,
Rich?
I know because we have been before the CPC for a few years here. The procedure has been to request the applicant to submit a revised preliminary application form, saying our request is now, with the change, and very easy to do, just so we have a record.
The money.
Yeah, the money down to 1.4, you know, and then on this, you know, just throwing this out, see what people think. On this question, it's really the applicant, you know, willing to to make a recommendation to us.
Right.
Not for
Not
us
our
to
decision.
choose between two options.
Mm.
We can choose between two options if one costs more than the other. We say, well, you know, better to do one that's less, but I would prefer to ask them to make the recommendation that you just made in writing with a justification for that, with the correction for the net present value information.
Well,
Yeah,
Because it's not
I
a
mean,
proper,
I don't think we have to do that.
well,
yeah,
I'm
I-
just gonna finish my sentence and we can all decide not to do it, okay? But I don't, it's absolutely inaccurate to compare two financial outcomes without doing that present value. That's just erroneous. And I request that be done, not by Dave doing it on the back of the envelope, but by the proponent.
I use Excel.
Yeah, and no, I can do it too.
Yeah.
But it's not, you're not the proponent, all I'm
Yeah.
saying. And then if it's equal cost in the long term, then I think it's up to the Parks and Recreation Commission or the school to say, we would prefer this one or that one. I would have the question, if it, you know, if it's substantially less money to do the asphalt, that will leave additional CPA funds available for something else next year, you know, but if they want to use it all up ahead of time and say judgment call ways, that is the right way to go, because we're responsible for this part of town, you know, it's not for me to question that.
Yeah, can I add something?
David?
Yeah, first of all, I think the fact that they're only requesting $1.4 million, it means that, you know, they can pay, they're not gonna have the full funding for either one of the approaches. The fact that, I think you said the commission voted to go with the concrete, I think it would be simpler if you just revise your request to say, that you wanna go with the concrete and you want $1.4 million and that's it.
I can do that. Certainly.
Gene?
I note that there's also, data presented for 6-court alternative or 8-court alternative. What is the applicant, applying for? I mean, again, isn't that up to the
It
applicant?
was, I brought that up just in case there was a. If there was insufficient funds,
Uh-huh.
it wasn't, they requested for 8 courts,
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And our,
So
and then
just-
the question.
just in
was-
case.
Just in case.
just in case.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if you revise the application, then you
The
can,
number of courts.
you could revise that
Yeah.
as well, and just put a simple, straightforward request.
Can you get that to us, Stacy?
You bet.
And we can circulate it before next meeting.
Oh, absolutely. I'll get it to you by the end of the week.
Fine.
And just to be clear, are you also requesting the net present value analysis in addition to the revised
No.
application?
That's not, I don't think that's
Okay.
within our purview.
Any other comments on the tennis courts? All right, our third and final application. I'm sorry.
Shall we do that?
Yes, okay. Same thing we did for the Linden Chambers. We can go by the comments, but what do we feel? Is this an application we can support? Pending the updated information from Stacy? We behind it?
Yes.
Yes, it really seems needed.
Okay.
For high
Okay.
school
That seems to-
programs.
yep.
and
It makes me
recreational
feel
as
much
well.
better that the town
Yeah.
is contributing.
Yes.
That was bugging me.
Mhm.
So, when we first got it, I thought, this seems like the town should really be helping
Yeah.
out with some of these costs, because, yeah, so I'm glad to hear that.
All right, the DeFazio fencing improvements. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Nice to see you.
You too.
I think, whose request was this? Jean, was this yours to get a more detailed look at?
Yes, I wanted to see what board has custody of the various parts of
Okay.
the land. And if somebody is going to present this and explain what it means, it looks like an exhibit rather than a real plan that one would use to transfer custody of land, but who knows about this? Anybody here? No, it's
I didn't
not.
get your question.
So it looks like this may have been to explain what was happening at a town meeting.
You're talking about the map or what?
Yeah, the map.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
in
fine.
2013.
Yeah.
I do have vague memory being a town meeting member, that there was a transfer of custody of land. And apparently that's what happened in 2013. So what must have happened is you have a strip here, currently Park and Recreation. Then you have these two green areas that says to Park and Recreation. So it could be better explained, but presumably in 2013, town meeting voted to transfer these green triangle areas to Park and Recreation, leaving the area with, I think it's the area of the existing playground that we provided funds for last year, and the parking area in the custody of the school department. Now why that was done, I really can't recall why it wasn't all transferred to Park and Rec. But I guess that, and we now have, I mean, it's not from the school committee, but you know, it's probably good enough for our purposes to make sure the school department as the custodial board of this yellow square is in favor of the project, and we have a letter from the director of athletics saying that in his opinion, as you know, from his position, this project is really needed. Because of course the high school students play and practice there, it's for the public, but it's also for high school students. So I guess that's good enough to answer my question. And of course, the Park and Rec is the applicant, so there's no question about them supporting it. My other question though was, I just thought we should have some kind of sketch plan that shows where the fences are and what they're talking about. It's all been just writing and we haven't seen a plan of the project.
That was something that you had requested. So I will circle back with, Edward Olson and see, and reiterate that request.
You would think they would have some kind of plan, you know, already in their file.
in writing.
No, I
But
think
it's
that, I
different
think
than
that's the
having a
reason
visual.
they put this in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
that
think
doesn't
Which
do it
doesn't
for-
really.
Doesn't really answer.
Yeah,
Right.
even,
Yeah.
yeah, the budget wasn't, the first meeting, there was no budget. So that was, or no detail. So
Yeah,
it does seem
yeah.
a little strange.
I mean,
We have it now.
they could put a more detailed thing saying it's going to be so many square feet of replacement.
Well, if you read the details, you can probably figure it out, but
It does
to
say,
show it on the
yeah, the
map.
numbers.
Yeah,
the
but
feet
it's
and
hard
all
to
that. Yeah.
envision it.
Yeah, how much easier just to see it, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dave?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think they provided sufficient detail and, you know, maybe it was easy, or at least it was easy for me to figure it out, but, my question is, has anybody in this committee been out there to look at these
Yes.
fences?
Yes.
Gene and I walked it.
Do we agree that
Liaison.
they're in disrepair?
He showed where the need was, and I think we agreed. Is it falling apart? Could it live another year? Probably, but is it falling apart? No, it's not. But I think we agreed that it would be proactive, take care of it now rather than be panicking next year when the need is even greater. You agree, Gene?
Yes, I do. My husband and I just took a walk around there, and in that walk, I said, gee, this looks pretty good. I don't know why they need to replace it. But then when we walked out with
Ed?
Ed.
Yeah.
And he actually showed us where the fencing is pushed out and not, it really does, we could really see the problems. Yeah.
As he said, they'll be replacing it with a heavier gauge. We're probably not gonna face this situation again soon, so they're thinking ahead.
Mhm.
Anything else, anyone?
Is there any town cost sharing on this?
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
I don't
I
know.
don't think so.
We're covering the entire cost. It's not a big cost. I don't have the application. I don't remember what the price is.
It was about 400.
417 was the cost
Mhm.
to us.
A lot of friends.
Yeah, It's
never
expensive.
got a estimate.
Yeah, the higher fences were like, wow, that's expensive, like when you saw the cost that it was gonna come to. But sure, it's.
Is that a concern of
heavy
anybody's here
labor.
that would dissuade them from voting a favorable?
And they did provide, it's true that this proposal
It's
that
pretty-
lists
pretty
everything
detailed.
is detailed in a way that hadn't been provided before.
Yeah.
So they did respond to the concern about well, what exactly are you doing?
It was part of the larger renovation of the park, right? Is that right or not?
No,
No,
Well, there was a separate project that was funded last year to renovate the playground area.
Yeah, but
And
the
there
bigger
was
project
another
was
project
the
that's
field.
under construction now.
Girls
Softball
softball
field.
Yes,
field.
Yeah.
yes,
That used to be a baseball field.
yeah,
Yeah, that's not
Right.
done.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's done.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's almost done.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was presented to us as here's our long range plan and we want this in year one and this in year, they're just coming along.
yeah.
But they, seem reasonable
I think
things.
as a selling point, Ed made it clear that this was part of the Field of Dreams. And the town, it costs nothing to the town for the initial installation. So now CPA kicking in, I guess that would be the only influx of money would be from us because the town really didn't own anything initially. They're not repairing it. They're asking for us to provide the funding.
No, it's interesting, not that, but the cost per foot is a little bit different, and it looks to be the same type of fence, so that's interesting to me. For the ball field parking lot, the 46,200 for 444 linear feet, that's 105 a foot. Everything else above it,
They got some taller, they
$88.
got like the backstops that are much more expensive.
Yeah.
They're taller.
But
Which I,
they're described the same way. So, yeah. So you have
Different heights also.
right.
Are there two different proposals in here? There's one from September and one from December,
Yes.
and they totaled, well, different amounts.
I think the December one is more detailed about the location of the work. Oh, no, this says perimeter parking there, ball field lot.
So,
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
the initial one was just a quick estimate. They had an on-call contractor that they used. And then they asked for a more detailed breakdown.
mhm.
well, what Ed Olson actually said was that the original estimate was what they used when they support, to support the request of the capital plan. And then this one is
Yeah.
revised for.
The latest.
Yeah,
rendering.
because we asked for a more
Yeah.
detailed breakdown.
Yeah, I don't know, Dave, I'm looking at the same type of situation and seeing almost $20 difference per square foot. So, but I don't know, I'm not
You know,
a
I mean,
fence person.
My
but
own opinion is, we shouldn't second guess them.
Yeah,
Because, they are gonna go out for bids and.
Yeah.
It seemed like a reasonable estimate to me.
And you're, maybe it's not germane, but you're only as good as your previous project in my mind, and Ed Olson has come to us more than once. And he's been a proven quantity. I think he spent the money wisely. I think he's made good
Mhm.
proposals. I would feel the same way here. Getting a sense of the committee, you feel this is something you can support?
Oh, yes. And, with this detail, if they really don't have a plan that actually shows the location, I guess I'm coming to the point, I mean, it would be, just be satisfied with this description. It's got linear feet,
Mhm.
so much per feet, the
Height.
height of each
Yep.
fence.
they must have a plan though, they
Yeah.
would need one, right?
Yeah.
You know, question how to manage
Oh,
the
yeah.
property.
No, for something like this, he would just walk with the contractor.
There wouldn't be
The contractor would, make notes, just like you have somebody come into your house to do painting, they're gonna.
Because it's
go-
already the line.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not
They're gonna
changing
go
the
into
line.
each room and they're gonna say so many square feet, blah, blah, blah. So I think what they did is appropriate,
Okay, well,
you know,
So it's all replacement. It's not-
exactly.
It is,
Yeah,
right.
they're not even replacing the poles.
Yeah, so at this point, I've
the
been.
fact that you guys went out there and
Yeah,
saw it
we
was,
saw
I
it.
think that's
Um,
enough for me.
So perhaps at this stage, with the detail being provided, I'm wondering what you think, Joe.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree,
you
yeah,
just say
yeah.
we're satisfied.
Yep.
Okay,
And this amount could change, right? Because this is the first person, they got their on-demand contractor to come
Right,
up with this,
they're-
right? So if they do put it out to bid, it could,
It could be less.
maybe it'll be less. Should be nice.
Any other discussion? We feel as though we can support it.
yes.
Okay, great. Very cooperative group, isn't it, Laura?
It is.
Good folks, good folks.
Charles,
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to, one thing that we didn't discuss when we talked about Linden Chambers, and I'm sorry to get us all the way to the end and jump backwards, but since we're gonna have Emily meet with us at our next meeting on February 21st, and she's going to kind of give her analysis and opinion and be available for questions. And one thing that she's raised repeatedly in meetings with us in preparation for this is the concept of giving this money as a loan versus a grant. Now, we may or may not be something that the committee is interested in entertaining, but you did see in your meeting packet some proposed language were you to do something like that. And I just thought, so I could report back to Emily before her meeting, that it's not something that I recall the committee discussing as a whole. And I thought you might just want to get a sense of that, maybe if you have questions about that. I do want to say that we did have a meeting with Dave Davidson,
Right.
and we mentioned to him that Emily had suggested it, and Cecilia told me that following that meeting, Dave gave it some thought, and what he said was that he doesn't think it's something that we should do. As a municipality, we really can't profit off of money that we grant, so therefore there'd be no interest or anything attached to a loan. So essentially giving it as a loan would just be giving them the money and then asking them to give it back to us over time. You know,
He wasn't a fan.
sounds like it. I don't, that's just a conversation.
And if I may jump in, I think there's a lot of considerations. We just reviewed this, just got it, obviously, and there are other considerations. We're not, we don't have it on the agenda tonight to talk about, but I think it's it's certainly something that to be considered, but there are some other disadvantages. I'm just not gonna get into details that we should listen to. And it raises a question I was gonna ask, actually, which is that, especially if we're gonna discuss it at the next meeting, I'd like to have somebody who knows a lot more about it than me, like Margaret Moran or Matt, and just be able, or produce a document that says, here's the pros and cons, here's how, it means, basically what she's recommending is if you have to pay it back, regardless of whatever Dave's point is, then that raises the bar in terms of make the financing. You gotta somehow come up with making that happen. And it's already an incredibly impossible heavy lift almost to even get the money in the first place. It might be looked on as disfavorably by DHCD. I'm not saying that, I'm just saying, we should hear both sides, of it as well, if we're gonna talk about it next time.
Yeah, I mean, if the town council was against it, why are we even considering it?
It was Dave, it
Dave
wasn't the
Davidson
council, it was
stuff.
Dave Davidson.
Yeah.
Or the town finance guy, yeah. I mean,
Well, it's been proposed also that maybe not come back to the town, but go to a Needham Housing Trust of some sort. So that we're not getting the money, but it's put in a kind of a limbo account of some sort.
Yeah,
You
well, I mean, I would request that if this is a proposal, that we get some details about it as opposed to, just talking about it generally, because it's not a area that I think, we all have expertise on.
Oh,
So-
and that's something that you can do with Emily when she's at the meeting next time, but this has been in the meeting packet more than once, and this is just a revised version of her proposed language, and so I just wanted to point it out because it hasn't come up as a topic of discussion, and I didn't want everybody to be surprised
Yes.
when she mentions it on the 21st. I wanted people to
You know,
know.
and there are other things here, like number 4, this thing about best efforts to use a substantial number of family units is sort of out of left field, in terms of, I don't see how that's a CPC or CPA kind of decision, similar to the tennis court discussion that we just had about whether it's gonna be, tension concrete. So, I mean, I think it's fair to bring up all these points. But I'd like to have Margaret be at the meeting next time. And in order, so we can listen to a discussion on,
We don't want to get another presentation,
not a
maybe,
presentation, just
No.
attending.
maybe an answer if we need it. Laura,
Well,
My recollection from being on the call with Dave Davidson, I really remember him saying that is not really in the purview of CPC to do alone. It's just not what the regulation.
Has CPC ever? done
No,
a lot?
no.
Okay, they're all grants, so.
but I
okay.
can't recall an application that's been quite as complex and complicated.
There
as
was
this
one, where the Charles River, Center, the art people, got $500,000, or some amount of money for a group home they built on South Street. But that was a grant too.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
I thought that it was no, the loan thing, honestly, after the conversation. with
yeah,
Dave.
and that, she threw that out there. She's not pushing for
Yeah.
us to do it, so, and Dave says, don't do it. Maybe we stick with him.
well, no, I was just gonna reinforce.
Yeah.
Laura's statement, that if the town finance director doesn't think this is something we should do, we shouldn't be wasting our time
Yeah, it just doesn't,
discussing it.
yeah.
With regard to this application, the application from the NHA is complicated,
Mhm.
sure, but, we've been through it, we've had, different discussions, and, we're gonna vote on whether we're gonna grant the money.
Right.
That's our charge.
I just wanted to make you aware that she put that out there as an option for you to consider, what Dave's thoughts were on it, so that
I
everybody
think we
kind of
need
had
to
all the
share that with
information.
her. So
Yeah.
she knows, about the conversation.
Gene?
And I understand that, of course, the project needs the money that we're providing to it. But another factor is that by providing this money, we're showing the state that it has support
Right.
and giving it a leg up in the application process. And if we said, oh, we want it to be a loan, that just wouldn't show the same level of support at
Right.
all.
Right, that's what.
It does muddy the water a little
Yeah.
bit, doesn't it?
But may I suggest, it's not on the agenda tonight, I'm winging it, can we just put it on the agenda for discussion next time around?
Her
These,
Motion about loan?
no, there are 6 points, there are 5 points here on this, right?
Well, she's gonna be on Zoom. We could, yeah. we
So
could
one
do
of
that.
them is the affordability, we talked about that. The second, the second is the loan repayment.
Yep.
The third is to try to renegotiate the grant from last year, and I don't think that's a possibility, but she suggested it. So we have a signed contract for last year, and she wants to renegotiate the terms. The fourth one is to have us use best efforts to include a substantial number of family units in phase 2 of the development, which isn't even before the CPC. And the fifth is to reconsider, the town reserves the right to reconsider and terminate this award in event the project has not received funding by June 30th from EOHLC by June 30th, 2026.
Laura will get back to her and have her be prepared to address those items next
Yeah,
time.
no, I just think we need to put it on the
Yeah, and
agenda.
then let's put it behind us.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
I assume that this was sent out, I missed it, in.
It was in the last, you sent an email today with that, or last night.
It may have
earlier
been
in-
it may have been in the packet of things that came in last minute, because she
Yeah.
sent it today.
Yeah, I looked
Yeah.
at that and printed out some things from it, but I missed this one.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's putting it on the agenda is a good idea for next time.
Yeah.
Need to take the copy out. I'll just look at it
Give
again.
me mine, so they have it.
Here, Jean, this is
Okay,
the packet that I
thank
was
you.
giving out before the meeting.
Okay, but one of the,
Entire packet there. There are other.
one of the factors, we talked about this at our last meeting, I believe, and that is there should be a date. About a reasonable amount of time, and if the housing authority doesn't have the funding and there's no way to undertake the project within this certain number of years, we just get our grant back. And I think it was said, and there should be some provision for extending it if the circumstances,
Let me just say for,
but that's one of her points.
but let me just say for, everybody has a very common misperception. It came up on T-Chalk on Monday. The grant doesn't go out the door. It's still in the town's bank account
Right,
until there's a financial closing. You have all 83 million bucks from everywhere, and that's when it becomes irrevocably committed. But before that, there's nothing to give back or anything. You can,
but we can't
and
use it for anything else.
you can't use it, but what else would you use it for? The only reason that would be, it will be, there's so much competition for funding, we don't succeed in the first round. So we'll go back in the second round, the third round, but I don't think that,
What you're saying though, if it goes back into the bucket, it goes back into the housing bucket.
That's right.
There's nothing coming our way from what you understand
That's right.
in housing, so
Right.
it's sitting there, but no one else is going after it.
That's
other than
right.
you.
Well, at this scale,
At this
who is gonna build a 136 unit apartment building, so for affordable housing here?
This is just top of the
Gene?
head. I'm not repeating
Mm.
any rumors whatsoever. What about Stephen Palmer? That eventually, in fact, rather soon, I understand, 3 years is the lease is gonna end and the town is gonna have to figure out what to do with that property.
Mhm.
And that is something that definitely could use the CPA money. So, I think we just don't wanna have it be hanging out indefinitely for.
No, I
You-
I
you're
think
right.
that's,
You're
I
right.
think that we talked about that with Dave Davidson too, and I think, he's got some ideas for how to address that.
Put a benchmark, time frame.
The standard agreement has a sunset clause in it, the standard town agreement, so the grant, all grant agreements that are done has says, it needs to be used by June 30th
Yeah,
or
that's what we're
something,
talking
and then unless extended, and if the applicant wants it extended, they have to put in a request.
Okay. All right,
All right, I'll say.
anything else? All right, let's move to the minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Two of them to do, 110 and 124.
I'm a real nitpicker on minutes, but I didn't find any nits to pick.
If Jean didn't-
Lauren is
if
very,
Jean didn't
very-
find a mistake, there's no mistake.
I know Maureen's our other resident.
Oh, we got a second pair of eyes.
So I move that we accept the minutes of January 10th, 2024, and the minutes of the Community Preservation Committee of January 24th, 2024.
Second.
All right, discussion. Let's do one at a time. Any discussion on the 10th? Okay. Any discussion on the 24th?
I saw one thing on page 3, section E. Finding, I think it should be must be awarded funding,
Yeah, I'm sure it
Yeah.
is.
and that was it, that's all I saw.
Also, I couldn't hear on the recording who seconded the motion to adjourn. So if anybody remembers, great. If not, I guess we'll just leave it blank. It's usually you,
volunteer.
Dale, right?
So I amend the motion to say, we accept the minutes of January 24th, 2024 with the change, there's one change, right? Discussed at this meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
So all those in favor of approving January 24th, 2024? Roll call vote, Paul?
Yes, or I.
Either way works.
May-
Dave?
Mr. Chair, if I may, as a point of admission, all members are present in the room. You can just do a voice
That's, we
vote.
can do that. Yeah. I'm testing myself on names.
Just saw that across the hall, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if we're all in favor, then we can do a unanimous. All in favor?
Aye.
How about January tenth?
Aye.
All those
Okay, all in favor?
signify by saying aye. Aye.
All right, well done. Anything else? Not on the agenda that you'd like to add?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, anyone?
Second.
Second? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
That saves about half an hour in I have a meeting, being able to do that. I've measured it.
Don't be absent, by the way.
Yeah.